It is not Wednesday, my dudes, but it is time for an old man yapping. Now, to give a quick kind of explanation of what's been going on over the course of the week, on Tuesday, I think it was, Tuesday, we had a gigantic windstorm here in Western Washington, knocked out power to over 500,000 houses. And that's all well and good. I know you're probably sitting here going, oh man, I don't know what I'd do without power for a week. I wasn't without power. I've got an enormous fuck-off generator out there and a tank full of propane that can run this house for a month. No problem. Lack of power, I didn't even notice. But I couldn't get on the internet because my internet provider had no power. And on Thursday, when they got the power back on, which is great, the internet didn't come back on. Now, I could get really annoyed and upset about this, but I've been the guy who has to figure out why the data center didn't come back online like it was supposed to and get it fixed. And you've got everybody and their brother breathing down your throat. And it's a fucking nightmare. So that poor guy, whoever had to fix what was wrong at the data center that runs 250,000 people's internet, I salute him and I thank him for his service because he did not have a good day. He did not have a good 2 days. And if he's anything at all like the average technician in this situation, he probably pulled an all-nighter. He may even have pulled 2 all-nighters. And it's likely that he had to drive to the middle of fucking nowhere to get a part that nobody else had. I have been there. I have done this. It is not fun. It is not a good time. And whatever annoyance I have suffered over the past 2 days, it's nothing compared to the bullshit he had to go through. So, dude, whoever you are, I feel your pain. I'm sorry you had to go through that horse shit. But anyway, during the week, what I did was play a bunch of video games, and I was playing Graveyard Keeper, which I've played through Graveyard Keeper before, but now it's got a whole bunch of DLC, and I added all the DLC to it a while back, and I haven't played it with all the DLC enabled. I think I played it when there was one DLC, when it was just the Stranger Sins DLC, and then they came out with Game of Crone and Better Save Soul, and I didn't play either of those, but then I bought them because there was a sale, and I installed them and all of that sort of shit. And Graveyard Keeper does a thing I fucking hate. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There are people that enjoy this kind of thing. I am not one of them. But I just wanted to kind of go over what it is and what drives me nuts about it. And hey, you can think about how you feel about this particular type of game mechanic. One of the first things you get asked to do in the game is to go to the tavern and talk to the barkeep. And the barkeep tells you to talk to somebody who's going to be there tomorrow. So you wait till tomorrow and you go back and you try to talk to someone and they won't fucking talk to you. But a guy at one of the tables will talk to you, and the guy who will talk to you says, hey, bring me some ink and some paper. You can make them in the basement of the church. Well, that's fine. One of the quests that I already have going on is that I need to unlock the church. So yeah, that's a thing that I can do, is worry about unlocking the church. So you get the church unlocked, you go in there, you get that taken care of, and you find out that in the basement of the church, you do not have the workstation you need to make ink and paper. because you need to unlock that technology. Well, that's fine. It's not that expensive. First, you unlock the whole thing about making paper, and then you unlock the thing about making ink, which is a little bit more expensive, a little bit more involved, and then you have to find some black paint to make ink. Making paper is fairly straightforward. I mean, you're processing bodies, and the bodies have skin, and the skin gets processed into pigskin leather, and the pigskin leather gets processed into clean paper. Okay, that's fairly simple. You can get the paper, no problem. But in order to get the ink, you have to get black paint. Well, where do you get black paint? There's no guidance on how to get black paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and blow the whistle on how you get black paint. What you do is you mix ash from burning a body at the crematorium, which you also haven't yet unlocked. Once you unlock the crematorium and you burn a body there and you have ash, you're supposed to connect the dots that ash is a black powder. And all of the other colored powders in the game, when you mix them with oil, make paint. So you need a black powder. Well, there's no actual kind of powder that's black. But ash is a powder, so you're supposed to connect the dots on that and mix it with oil. The oil is the sticking point because there are two issues with oil. The most important one is that in order to get the oil at all, you have to complete a quest that has nothing to do with oil. You have to talk to a guy about a cake recipe that he'll teach you if you bring him 4 jars of honey. So you bring him 4 jars of honey and he teaches you a cake recipe. Cake is extremely useful. You want the cake recipe. It's a really, really important recipe and you want it. But you don't know that until you read the recipe. So chances are very good you look at, bring me 4 jars of honey, I'll teach you how to make cake. I don't fucking care how to make cake. Who gives a shit? Well, until you give him the 4 jars of honey and get the cake recipe, he doesn't have a trade inventory. And his trade inventory includes seed oil. But it comes in a bottle. And what you have to do is you buy the seed oil, and then in your inventory, you have to use the bottle to produce loose seed oil that you can then mix at the alchemy table. And that's another thing. The alchemy table requires you to make conical flasks, which requires you to know advanced glass blowing, which is not an easy thing to learn. And once you learn the advanced glass blowing to make the conical flasks, you find out that you can only make the conical flasks at a level 2 furnace, which means you need additional technologies. And getting to those technologies for the level 2 furnace and then building the level 2 furnace, you need other stuff. There's all of this stuff that you need, and it expands into this huge process. And that's all just to get the black paint to make ink for this quest at the very beginning of the game. And there's no indication of where to get the oil. And nobody ever actually tells you what the recipe for black paint is. It's a riddle. It's a huge fucking riddle. And on top of this, the alchemy table. Did I mention that you learn to make the alchemy table from the witch in the middle of the western swamp, which requires you to repair the bridge, and then after you repair the bridge, you have to solve the maze into the middle of the swamp to talk to the witch. And there you will find there's another bridge that you can build there. So you have to get the list of materials while you're in the middle of the maze, and then you have to go back out through the maze, and you have to get all the materials, and then you have to go back through the maze to build the bridge. And then you don't have to go through the maze anymore. But all of this is just tremendously time-consuming for no good reason, and you're wandering around a lot of the time going, where the fuck do I get oil? Which is a particularly nasty bit, because there's a point where the donkey who brings you corpses stops bringing them until you give him some oil for his wheels, which has to be in the bottle. You have to give it to him in the bottle. You can't take it out of the bottle and then give it to him. You have to leave it in the bottle to give it to him. So you still have no indication that taking it out of the bottle is something you need to do. The clues are not there for you to solve this. It's designed to be just this thing that you discover because you're solving other quests. And it's hidden behind a pointless, meaningless side quest that doesn't look interesting. And I hate that shit. It's just like when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and your DM has put something somewhere because they'll never think to look there. Put it somewhere they're going to look. You want the players to have fun, right? You want to tell the story that you're telling, right? If you put it someplace they never look, they're never going to get to that part of the story. Why did you waste your time on the fucking story? Like, oh, I'll put it on the roof. They'll never look on the roof. Well, what they'll do is they'll find another option. They'll find another solution to the problem, and they won't go up on the roof. And because they don't go up on the roof, they'll never get to that part of your story. But anyway, that's really fucking annoying. And there's a class of player that enjoys this. There's a class of player that likes being handed a riddle with no clear example of how to solve it. The Ace Attorney games, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney games, are notorious for this kind of shit. And I've played through a substantial amount of the Phoenix Wright games. They're not fun anymore. They're just frustrating. You're searching for the thing that they hid with the intent that you would never be able to find it. Oh, you'll never look there. That's really fucking annoying. And I know there are people who love these games and that think they're fantastic. And I just sit there and go, God, you probably would have enjoyed the text adventures of my day, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text adventure from Infocom, where you had to get the babelfish, and every single time you try to get the babelfish, another incredibly unlikely event would happen, and you had to go, get the babelfish, okay, fix that. Get the babelfish, okay, fix that. Okay, fix that. Okay, fix that. Okay, fix that. And then you get to the end, and finally, you have to have brought something from the very beginning of the game that you probably didn't think to pick up or bring with you. So it's like you left the room at the beginning of the game and you didn't pick up the one item that you absolutely need at the end of the game, and you're fucked. You play the whole rest of the game and you get to the end and you just can't progress any further. You got to start over. But that was Douglas Adams' idea of a good time. He thought that was funny. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy that one bit. There was quite a sense of accomplishment when I actually solved that particular puzzle. But, yeah, the process of solving it was very frustrating and not funny at all. Similarly, there was one of the Scott Adams text adventures where there are two different dark areas, and you need a torch to get through each of those areas, but there's only one torch, and the torch will only burn so long, and then it goes out, and you can never use it again. And you can get through the first area, but long before you get to the second area, the torch will burn out. And if you don't have a working torch to go into that second dark area, you die. It's just, the game's unwinnable at that point. And you have to work out that upon leaving the first dark area, you have to unlight the torch. You don't douse the torch, or quench the torch, or put out the torch, or turn off the torch. You have to unlight the torch. That's not a fucking word. And as you can tell, I'm still kind of salty about it. It's been 40 years. I'm still mad about this shit. Certain games are full of stuff like this, where it's riddles. And some people enjoy them, and some people don't. And I'm of the class of person that doesn't enjoy them. And I feel like sometimes, like with Graveyard Keeper in particular, I don't feel like the team explicitly wanted to make a game full of riddles. I think it just turned out that way because they didn't realize they made a riddle. They didn't understand that nobody has any reason to bring the guy his honey, because nobody has any reason to want the cake recipe. And nobody has any reason to think the seed oil is in his inventory behind that quest. Nobody has any indication of those things. But everybody on the team already knows them. Surely you already know them too. You know all the things that I know, right? I don't know anything special. I don't know anything different. There's no asymmetry of information here. But there is. There always is. And you have to think about that, and you have to take it into consideration. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. And in about 5 or 6 hours, I'm going to do the showing up video, which that'll be nice. And for the moment, here's your old man yapping, a couple of days late, but I did show up. Okay, bye.